Oh. Hello, hello, hello. Da-da-da-da-da-da. There we go. Good stuff. Uh, sorry, just adjusting some stuff here. Oh, good day, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. As Hassan Piker likes to say, as I like to say, wearing the merch. I'm trying something new. We're just going in. Today's episode is an episode. I did this a video, but the video scuffed. You know? And I thought, if it's gonna be this scuffed, let me just do it as a stream. You know what I mean? Why not? Let's just do it as a stream. We can get a stream out of it. It'll be more cool anyway. Today's main topic. AI. Taking a little departure. A slight departure. Pulling up paint. I know I'm gonna need it. A small detour. You know what I mean? From anime, although only a little bit. Because this topic has been a huge issue in the anime world. A big deal. We had Corridor VFX team making their anime rock paper stolen assets, and then training a model on Vampire Hunter D, which is still a copyrighted and privately owned property, not publicly available for monetized use. So, they shouldn't have done that. But they did, and it became a huge topic of controversy. And in the wake of the video, many people their takes on AI art. And, I heard all the discussion. It's been a problem with for the fan art community for a while. If you follow any artists on social media, you've probably chirping and talking about it, the issues with it, the problems they have with it. In particular, recently, one of my personal not gonna not it's a little. This is probably one I can show. I think his latest one I can show. There, I don't know. And yeah. But yes, this vampire OC he draws all the time. You may have seen her here and there. Look, very cute. He draws cute girls doing etchy things, right? Sweater, One Piece. Sienna, vampire, original character. They draw us all the time. Recently, Henken had a high-profile AI incident. A big deal happened to him, to them. Why is the kitty on the table? Good question. When I get on the table, why is it only the cat that gets on the table? It's not fair. That's not right. I want to get on the table. Truly. Life is hell. Speaking of life being hell, Henken. I mean, long story short, someone stole Henken's artwork. Did what you do, you know, put his artwork in, put their artwork in one of these AI machines. And, you know, started pumping stuff out. Started pumping out the jams. Started making stuff happen. In regards to AI generated images that appeared to be Henken's illustrations. You know? Which is not good. So the guy was posting on Niku Niku Doga. He wouldn't actually upload to any of the websites. He would just post videos. Extremely legitimate and real technology that is not used for any nefarious purposes. So he was uploading these AI generated images, very clearly built from you know, Henken's library of works, and doing that. And so Henken was like, well, fuck this. I'm filing a copyright claim, okay? Because my copyrighted work, he's using it to make these permission, use it the way that he is. So, boom, blam, copyright claim the video, and Niku Niku Doga denied the copyright claim. That Henken, you can't. This isn't your pictures. This just looks like your pictures. It just looks like you. That doesn't mean it is yours. You know, extremely not how copyright has ever worked. It then later that week came out that the LDP Japanese governing party has had lots of meetings with AI companies, including tech companies like Nikudoga and other people. So, you know, There's that. That's great. We love that. GPT. And just last week, there was an open letter about ChatGPT 4, which came out and had marginal improvements from ChatGPT. And afterwards, all of these nerds got so scared. These guys are so funny. Tescriel guys, dude. You don't know about the whole Tescriel thing. Tescriel eugenics movement. I definitely recommend Emil Torres. Emil Torres here. A very interesting kind of academic character. He has a master's in neuroscience, but it's more of a sort of historian, philosopher, writer, reporter these days. Here is a thread he did on Eliezer Yudowski, who is an extremely strange figure. I was just going through his thread really quickly. This guy wrote Harry Potter and the Methods of Rationality. Which, if you're a fan fiction person, you've probably heard about. If you know about AO3, history, archive of our own, Harry Potter and the Methods of Rationality is actually a big one on there. And Yudowski is now a big deal guy in the world of Tescriel. Effective altruism, long-termism. Recently, Philosophy Tube has a video out as well where she talks about long-termism and effective altruism on their own terms as philosophies. But Neil Torres makes the repeated point that it's kind of hard to think about these movements on their own terms when they're being led by guys like Yudowski, he's just a eugenicist, contemporary eugenicist. The only thing about him, which, you know, posting eugenics, whatever, I mean, not whatever, but yeah, there's plenty of fucking dudes who post eugenics online, alright? It's the internet, what do you want? What I would want is no eugenics, but you know, who cares about this? Well, the only problem is that now effective altruism is a big time part of this AI machine learning institute. I don't know about long-termism. Effective altruism, how it works. Getting way off topic from what I but it's interesting. The idea is, I'm rich, man, you know, this is a philosophy for rich people because, I don't know. It's like copium so that they don't want to die while the world is bad, right? Like, we have all these social problems. Governments are abdicating their responsibility. Now governments don't have to abdicate. If the rich do stopped paying them to abdicate their responsibility, then maybe, you know, that'd be good. And instead got on board with like paying taxes and contributing to broader global society, you know, that might help a little bit. You know, democracy. Not running people's lives as a kind of deranged despot, but instead just as one wealthy, productive member of society in which you have no outsized interest. Could do that. You might do that. you might consider that idea, but you know, instead you think of effective altruism. It's like, how can I swing my money dick around in a way so that I save the world, a la, you know, Tony Stark, Iron Man? How can I be this? Well, the most rational way to be this hero, if you're a losing nerd, right, is to donate your money to the most efficient, effective charities or institutions or whatever that take your money and get the most bang for your buck in terms of like utilitarian philosophy, right? So don't donate a wing to a library. Donate, you know, 5 million malaria nets. People who are gonna die of malaria. You know, don't invest in the infrastructure of that region, though, so that these people can, you know, develop the region. Maybe invest the money in their own projects that they would like to, including things that could be. You don't need any malaria net. But I know. I'm just thinking of autonomy. Who cares about that? I'm going to give you malaria nets. Because that's the best. I did math and best. So here's your malaria nets. That I hope you're doing good. Good job. And so effective altruism is, in some ways, a silly thing, right? Sort of a cope for being rich in a lot of ways. But baseline, if it leads, you know, giving money to charities that do positive things, I don't really care. The problem is, of course, the whole philosophy that tells rich people they should give their money to poor people is gonna. No one likes that. No one's gonna fly with that. So instead, what has happened is this thing called long-termism, which is the EAL, the end of TESCREAL. Includes things like eugenics. Big boast. There's all these like academic philosophers that are involved in it, which just goes to show you that academia, it's bankrupt both financially and ethically. Who cares? These are big time guys. They're like big name academic philosophers. I love this world, dude. It's so stupid, man. We live in the worst. We live in hell. It truly it is like the best. Alright, so you have these eugenicist guys, and they're like, you know what? Sure, donating some malaria nets, great. But you know what's better than malaria nets? Infinite sex in the computer. Not a joke. Alright, the idea is they're all like singularity believers. They think the meaning of human existence overall to give birth to AI that can learn and scale itself up, and it learns from it and it builds itself, and then it takes over everything and turns us into machine soup and plugs our brains in the computer, and we live in virtual reality. I mean, it's crazy, right? Like, basically, we're all gonna go into SAO, but that's good because I don't know why that's good, but it is. They think it's good. They think it's the ultimate, all human existence. That and, you know, colonizing. As if, as if there just aren't any other life forms. As if it's just like we're just going to conquer the entire visible universe, and there's just nobody else there, which is truly like, I don't know, like. A, that's not happening, but B, like, imagine being so white that you imagine going out into the universe, and instead of there being indigenous populations that exist, there's just nobody there, and you can do whatever you want. I mean, I always thought of colonialism as like a real material. You know what I mean? Like, oh, there's stuff and people over there. Let's enslave them and take their stuff, right? Like, very much like, we don't give a shit. We do whatever we want. But now, I'm starting to get it a little bit more. Because it's like, oh, these guys, they just think they can go wherever they want and do whatever they want. And, like, there's nothing going on with that. That's just how it is. Like, we're just doing that. You know? That's what they think. Incredible stuff. But yeah, so the idea is like there's this ultimate meaning, purpose to human life, which involves like AI and I don't know, reality, space colonialism, and it's very delusional, right? Extremely delusional stuff. As if any of this is reasonable or possible or likely to happen anyway. Say, well, that's really good. It does not sound very good, but they think it sounds really good. And they're like, it's so good that we don't do whatever we can to make it happen, then you know, that's a fail. We failed. Unethical. That's not effective. So, as a part of effective altruism now, since that's the only thing that matters, we just gotta get to the infinite sex space party. That's the only thing that matters now for an effective altruism. At least in long term, is you have to, you know, give your money to OpenAI and Google, all these surveillance companies. You have to further entrench your own wealth as a part of, you know, doing good. Of course it goes there. Of course, that's what of course. Why didn't I think of that? Wow. Incredible stuff. And, you know, whenever you're talking about this kind of stuff, yeah. Gen X, so here's Torres, you know, talking about all these guys are eugenicists and freaks and idiots, and they don't even know anything about AI or anything. Guy's just a fucking fic author. So you have these weird internet eugenicists delusional AI loving freak uh, who are now in like the highest ranks of people talking about AI. Very strange to me because none of this is what's happening. Nothing that's going on here is what's happening at all. None of the GPTs or anything that we have is like even in the ballpark of general artificial general intelligence AI, which is just like a fake imaginary, right? Not like a real. We're dropping so many frames that it doesn't matter, dude. Look at this stream. Look at the high octane visuals of this that are so important. Like, you will have some visuals. So these guys are now freaking about the AI they built, or they didn't build, but that like they're like, whoa, 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 bro. What if you accidentally make AI instead of infinite sex AI? You know, that wouldn't be good. Stop. It's dangerous. It is dangerous in a lot of ways, but not because of that. It's dangerous because of what has already happened. Like the Henkin episode. The Henkin incident is direct material harm enabled by AI system. Unregulated AI system. That's happening right now. These guys are worried about, you know, what if the computer sex, instead of computer sex, it's infinite torture. And I don't fucking think. Yeah. I try not to bother myself with really shit ideas too much because it's stupid to think about. But anyway, they have shit ideas, and yet they're running everything because their ideas are very, you know, good cope for being like a rich tech person, cash from society, and contributing nothing at all to the future of humanity except for mass surveillance and, you know, exploitation of the global south. Again, like you do. Yeah, like they've done for ChatGPT. It's not fucking bad. Right, so you're doing all this terrible shit because you're like a bad person. Walk away from the insane amounts of money just because you're doing things that are terrible for humanity. Classics. So you have the philosophical cope and everybody loves it. Eschriel is the cope of the day, and much like eugenics or anything like that, it's really sort of like a back justification for all the horrible shit rich people are doing to poor people because they don't care. And, you know, not that that makes them unique. No one really gives a shit, but when you're rich and you don't give a shit, it causes... Don't give a shit? What are you gonna do? You're not doing shit. You can't do nothing. Alright, so... And so there was this open letter. I was very upset. Artists hate AI. Now there's AI like rap being written, and now the music fans are like, okay, now I don't like AI either. Everybody hates AI. Right? Everybody's like, we gotta deal with AI, blah blah blah. And part of that has been a lot of talk about AI that I feel is not really grounded in what it is. And part of that is because really no one knows what it is. The companies making these products are for very obvious cynical reasons, you know, not not letting you peek behind the curtain with their products. They're not showing you the training sets. They're not showing you the models that they're using. Not showing the processing that they're doing, which is a very, you know, very cool. I mean, there's obvious reasons that for profit, but you know, these are big, powerful tools that will have an impact on society at large. I mean, this is a significant advance in technology for sure, no question. But it has real limitations. This isn't like unlimited power. And it's actually found kind of unlimited power. It's actually found kind of limited use of yet. Because even though it can write code, simple code, when you ask it to make more complicated code at once, it tends to like a lot. And if you have an automated system that messes up making code, I mean, get very far. Power. Yes, we're talking about AI. Welcome to the stream, Mr. Core. Core, friend of the show, friend of the stream and shit. We love that. www. And so today I want to address what is AI at the heart, at the core. What are we looking at? Explained really basic for everyone to understand. I'm gonna talk about it in the terms of AI art because I feel like that's the most understandable. Everything that I'm talking about, I mean, what I'm talking about is the core theoretical understanding. Neural network. What's being done at the heart of AI stuff. Power. And I just want to give that in a way that I think people can like get their minds around. That's both specific but not too detailed that it's going to confuse. And I'm going to talk about it in terms of AI art because everybody knows that AI art looks pretty good, but there's a lot of ways that it looks pretty weird. And once you know how it fucks up consistently, it's kind of easy to spot that this is AI generated for not even just, you know, you don't need any software to it. Software can do it like pretty well, and even identify, you know, which model it's to be from. But even just as a person, you can look at stuff like the hands. The hands tend to look pretty weird. Legs, like posing positions, these kind of you know, perspective tends to be a little off in a lot of problematic ways. Not problematic, in a lot of like sort of strange ways. Proportions of characters will not be really right. There's all of these like sort of specific detail things, and hands are one of the most difficult specific, and we'll get to. There's a lot of ways that it's wrong, and I want to expose why that is, what the underlying reasons for this wrongness is, and why fixing that issue is not actually a thing. Why the issue is a part of the product in and of itself. This is not a problem with the thing per se. It is an artifact of how the thing works fundamentally. So I'm gonna go through this point by point. We're gonna start with an outline of what the thing is, how it works, and what we're doing here. Like what's going on with all these AI systems. You'll see more AI systems popping up. You know, the AI presidents videos have been popping up, which I love those. I always love like the gaming Joe Biden and Donald Trump. It's just so funny to me. It's just funny to imagine Joe Biden and Donald Trump game at all. I love that. The president's talking about anime and stuff. So good. I love those. Right, but that's sort of like voice generation stuff. Deep fakes are a part of this as well. All of these things. Right, you'll see more and more different neural network applications pop up, and they're always going to be a little off. Right, they're never going to sound exactly like the person. It's always going to be a little wrong. The deepfakes are always going to be like not quite right in terms of how it looks. And why? Why? Because the truth is, well, we'll get. So, some misconceptions people have. First one, here's what I'll call misconception 0. It just gets better. This is actually sort of like a historical misunderstanding, because the thought is, oh, this is the start of AI. You know what I mean? This is the beginning. We've just gotten started. This is the end point. This kind of research has been going on as long as I've been alive and longer. It's been lots of theoreticals in the past. And the kind of computing power that you needed to even try to do this stuff wasn't really available on a scale that was feasible even 10 years ago. So it hasn't really been a matter of like the idea. In fact, the core ideas that I'm going to talk about here that power the whole thing, they've been around since the 70s, like over 50 years. Right, so this has been a long road, and we're at the end point of the long research process of like making products that people can use. And that's like it. You know what I mean? Generally speaking, tech doesn't really get a lot better once it's like usable on the market. Because why would it? Like, who cares? And you know, once you're pushing the product out and letting people use it, you've kind of like made it as good. Now there have been some improvements since these things first hit, since like DALL-E Mini first hit public use and got a lot of social media traction for its like weird weird images. But this is a misconception about like the history of this stuff. You know, I think of this as like a brand new innovation. This is not a brand new innovation. This old ideas that are just getting implemented, and you know, we're sort of hitting the 747 plateau in my mind. I think we're about there with like ChatGPT 4. All of these image generations are now, they're solid, but you know, hands are still weird. There's still a lot of stuff that's very off and it doesn't really look that good. Alright, so that's 0. Anyway. That's the first misconception addressed. Alright, and that's sort of the overall thing. And talking about it in terms of art, it can't do hands now, but soon it will. Right? In terms of AI art, we'll put it that way. As art, it just gets better. Right, the hands still look weird. They're always in weird positions. Recently, they do have 5 fingers most of the time, but they're often, you know, it has learned to like put the hands in like positions like this, so that like it doesn't have to actually render them. Or like hands in pockets is very common, and we'll talk about that strategy and why that happened. However, there's this idea that it will be able to do. The reality is it will never be able to hands, and we'll talk about why that is. 2, it isn't plagiarism. Right? That's the second misconception. And 3 is that it is using public, freely available data. These are sort of the 3 major misconceptions I see about AI. And obviously they're like evangelists. You know what I mean? They're like people who are invested in this being good. They're trying to like run a grift or whatever. They're trying to sell their own AI product, or they are like the guy on Nico Nico Doga uploading, you know, AI versions of Henken art, right? Like they have their own agenda for why they're saying this stuff. There's a lot of people like that who are coming around saying these talking points, but these are even things I've heard from like Asmongold when he's talking about it. Oh, another sort of level 0 misconception I want to talk about before we get into the details. This is all stuff that you know, we can address by getting a little bit into the technical details. But another sort of level 0 misconception is that, you know, now that the sort of like big point, that like now that the tech is out there, it's just out there, right? Nothing we can do. It's happening now, which is so weird point to make, because that's literally not how any technology normally is. I see like other people sort of go the other way, where they're like, yes, it is true, it is time to end the reign of terror of technology, and we will return, we will revive Ludditism, and we will overthrow all of this, which is like, I don't know, sort of catastrophizing again in a lot of ways. You know, it's the like, oh no, it's gonna learn how to do hands and then we're all finito, we have to stop it kind of vibe of like the other side of like, it's gonna save us all versus like versus like we have to stop it. But literally, like most every technology we interact with has like a significant network, like regulations and rules that are not part of the technology, like internal combustion engines. You know, there's pretty strong regulations on how fast you can have a car commercially available, people able to go. Like, they can't go that fast. You can't just put out, like, you know, F1 race cars are on the market. You're not allowed to do that. You are, surprisingly, not just allowed to do whatever you want, no matter what. And that includes, you know, making technology or whatever. Devastating, I know. Truly the worst of all possible worlds we've got going on here. Let's get into a little bit of the technical details before I address these ideas. Put this over my face. That way the dropped frames aren't as setting. All right. Off to a great start. So, everything we are experiencing, from ChatGPT to the AI art stuff, is versions of what you might call generalized autonomous regression. All right, this is sort of the math stats idea beyond it. Now, if you were in high school at any time, you should have encountered the idea of linear regression, which is the most basic form of regression. It basically says, here you've got a bunch of data points, right? Look at all this data. Look at all of it, right? And just to contextualize things a little bit. Right? When you're in high school, you learn this in terms of, you know, whatever, different data collection shit. I don't know, some stupid example. But nowadays, you know, let's label our axes here. Our axes here, these, in terms of AI art, these are prompts. Right? This axis. You're on this axis are all the possible ways you can, you know, type shit in. AI arts. For example, we've got this thing here. So this prompt down here corresponding this data point is something like alien doing a kickflip. Right? Alien doing a kick. Right, so this axis here is just a bunch of words. They might say, well, this is supposed to be numbers thing. Well, right. But in a computer, Everything's a number, baby. The Pythagoreans were right. All is number. So here we got it. Alien doing a kickflip. Very good. And then this axis here. Boom. Our JPEG. Alien kickflip. Final. JPEG. There. Alright, so here we have this. Right, this is points in our data set here. This is a JPEG of an alien doing a kickflip, labeled with the tag alien. Okay. In the context of AR, this is what our data set looks like. Each of these is an image, JPEG, and it has been labeled with a bunch of like text, a bunch of tags, a bunch of prompts, right? As we know them. Now, where do these prompts come from? Have you ever done a reCAPTCHA? You did it. It'll tell you, you know, identify this thing, identify that thing, identify that thing, and you are contributing to one of these publicly available databases using dubiously sourced imagery. And you're attaching text to an image. Right, so each of these points is an image with a bunch of text attached. Alright, so if you took high school maths or high school maths enjoy, you learned about actually let me. Alright, so here's our alien doing a kickflip for that block of text. The high school maths, you learn about something called a linear model. Very simple to do. Linear regression. You make a line that sort of splits the middle of your cloud of points here. Got a bunch of points. You got your data set here. Right? You just threw a straight line through it. Now this is you know, this is all well and good, and it's useful for some kind of modeling, but this is what we would call a model, the linear model in order here. And linear models are really simple to do. They just have two parameters. They're very basic. The most basic kind of regression you can do. And there are sort of technical mathematical ways to find the line of best fit, give you the best possible problem being, right? If this is our model, right, so we've got our data point. The data points are a bunch of images. They're prompts. If this is our model, right, and we put alien doing a kickflip into our model, well, you can see alien doing it up there. And we're gonna go up, we're gonna put it in, put in our input, and we're gonna get our output. You know, not very good. Probably just gonna be like crap. Like it's just gonna be a bunch of like random pixels. Not gonna look like anything. This is not good. Got some error here. Got a lot of error. We don't like that, you know what I mean? This is a problem. So what we want to do is have a non-linear, which is actually a pretty complicated idea and a type of modeling that hasn't really been done. So looking at our data here, our best kind of model might be something like this. Connect the dots, as they say. Like this. Oh, that's great. Right, because now we're hitting all of our data points. So all of these images we have with text attached to them, if we put in any of that text, like if we put an alien doing a kickflip, wow, we're gonna get alien doing a kickflip out 100%. Right, we're gonna get alien doing a kickflip out absolute perfect. Okay. Obviously, that's an issue in other ways, but you know, in terms of making a regression, doing a regression that gives you what you want, well, this gives us exactly what we want. The problem with it is if, you know, this is great, we've connected the dots for the data points that we have, but just getting a bunch of images, labeling them, and then giving yourself a piece of computer technology, a computer system that then spits those back out exactly, isn't really what we're trying to do. Right? This is what we would call a weak database, basically. A weak database regression. You're just hitting all the points you've put in. Exactly. Right? You're just hitting them. You're connecting the dots. You've got your images, you've got your prompts. You're just gonna make a little thing here that hits all the images exactly with their prompts. It's gonna line them up exactly. Well, this is just a database. Like, you just type in alien doing a kickflip and you get out your JPEG. It's just sort of like a file storage system with a lot of extra steps. And the real problem with it is that, sure, this gives us exactly what we want in terms of these exact points that we've put in here, right? Like our initial data points are great, but we come over here and we try to get you know, dog bark slide, dog. Oh, we didn't have dog doing it. I didn't, right? So even though we've fit all of our data points really well, our model hits all of the data points perfectly. Right? When you're off of the database, again, you come over here and this doesn't look like that. Right? This is what we call overfitting. You have focused too much on recreating the data that you've had, created this weak database that takes in what you had and puts out exactly that. Created this weak database of dog doing a dark side. Or a weak database that gives you this exact JPEG when you put in the specific prompt, but when you put in prompts, the database is weak, yo. True. When you put in other prompts, it's not really gonna work out. Not really gonna work out. Alright. So this whole issue of, you know, the super basic straight line is not good enough, right? Super basic straight line, not good enough. But just connecting the dots, kind of a naive way, just going from one point to another. You can even connect the dots with lines if you really want to do. Just connecting the dots like that is called overfitting. The line is overfitting, and the connect the dots is underfitting. Or the connect the dots is overfitting, and the straight line is underfitting. The underfitting problem. And this is at the heart of why hands don't look good. But keep in mind, this problem of underfitting is like, that's how it works. Right? So, for example, sort of a good regression model right? It's gonna look something like sort of like this. It's gonna be threading the needle, but it's gonna be sort of influenced by your images. So it's getting close to them, but it's not going too crazy. It's not overly concerned with hitting exactly the points themselves. It's getting close enough that when you put an alien in doing a kickflip, what you get out is an alien doing something you would interpret as a kickflip. You know, it's an image. Maybe it's not exactly perfect. Maybe the hands look a little weird. Maybe the position of the feet isn't quite actually what kickflip looks like, right? If you really know how kickflips work. Now, this little point here that corresponds to alien doing a kickflip, right? This image here, it's not quite an alien doing a kickflip. Maybe the alien looks a little different than it did before, which is actually kind of a good thing. And maybe it's not quite doing a kickflip. This is probably more so like the kind of stuff you get out of an image generator, right? It's probably just like a kind of dude with a big head, something with a skateboard. Right? That's what we're talking about. And this is what our modern models look like. They are good fits the data. You know, they're following the data, but they're not overfit to the point of actually spitting all of the data points out, because if you do that, then you can't actually generate images. Right? You're too tied to the data that you're practicing on. You want to be learning from the data points, but not to just copy. Right? In order to generalize your model to fit other stuff. So now, you know, the dog doing a dark slide is actually a dog, and it is on a skateboard. Probably still not doing a dark slide, that's a little too specific, but hey, at least it doesn't look like garbage crap, right? It's closer. It's in the ballpark. So, you know, underfitting appropriately does lose us some of the like exact precision of you know, getting the perfect alien doing a kickflip image out, but you know, what we lose, we gain so much more in the generalizability of our model, in the broader ability of our model. Adapt and stuff. Be a little underfit. You want it to not be like underfit like a linear model, but you don't want it to be overfit. It can't do too good. And that's where I come back to these misconceptions. It can't do hands now, but soon it will. And that's the first one. It's gonna get there. But it won't get there. It's not supposed to get there. You see what I mean? Like, if it's getting there, that's not good. So now let's talk about hands in particular, right? And hands are a great example of what these models aren't good at doing. Why they're such a perennial issue, and why we've seen so many sort of AI strats come up, which we'll talk about afterwards. But hands in art are, you know, a well-known issue, right? Every artist who has tried to do character rendering doesn't just say fuck it and become like a scenic still life painter. Anyone who wants to draw a person has to deal with the issue of hands. The reason hands are a problem because they have no consistent perspective, right? The point of hands is you can do whatever you want with them. You can like move around, you have 5 digits, they're like, spread them out, you can ball them up, you can rotate every single hand position however you want. Everything else on the body is kind of like related to each other. You know, like your head and your shoulders and everything are kind of like related. You can move the head around and stuff, but you know, the face itself and the head, and it's sort of a matter of rendering different perspectives of this one object kind of thing. It's not like your face is suddenly like in a whole different position. Your eyes aren't going up here and your nose isn't down, but the fingers on your hands are doing all sorts of stuff, right? And your actual torso and your legs, and their relationships are pretty well established in terms of like positioning and perspective and all that stuff. But that is not the case for hands. Hands can flip them around, you can cross your fingers, you can do whatever. Your hands, peace signs, you can do the da-da-da, right? You can do whatever. Count to 5, you know what I mean? And that means these are hands. In terms of images, they're data which is inconsistent, right? Because across lots of different images, everybody's hands are doing different stuff. They're positioned in different ways. Their relationship to the viewer, to the ultimate data of the image is inconsistent. it's specific, right? Like, the things that hands can do aren't infinite. There is a limit to hands, but it's specific, inconsistent, broad. Like, there's lots of different things hands can do. They all look very different in terms of like rendering. And the worst thing of all is that people are extremely sensitive to hands. Like, if the hands look weird in a picture, it just makes the picture look weird. Like, if you've got 6 fingers on your hand, people are gonna be like, whoa, there's something wrong with this. They might not notice right away, but they're gonna be like, I don't like this. If the fingers are like too long for the hands, it looks really strange. If they're too short, it looks really weird. If the hands are in just in like weird position, like if someone's doing this with their hands, it's like, what are you doing? Like, why did you do? What does this mean? You know? So there's a very understood sort of like natural usage of hand, and the proportions are very sort of like evolutionarily programmed into our brain. But so we can recognize hands that look good and don't look good sort of very intuitively, but in images they're inconsistent, and in terms of output they sort of need to be inconsistent. You have to match the hands in a good way to what's going on in the picture, or else it's not gonna look good. It's gonna look really fucking creepy. But that's really hard to do because hands aren't consistent. What does that have to do with overfitting, underfitting? Alright, overfitting is a big issue. You know, like, if we overfit, then suddenly, instead of being able to generate what we want, when we try to generate new stuff, it just doesn't give us anything. But underfitting, which is, you know, what you need to do to have a good generalizable model that doesn't just act as a weak database. Underfitting leaves you extremely vulnerable to weird hands. Because let's say we move away from our alien doing a kickflip. Let's say over here we've got star. There's a guy doing a peace sign in our database. Alright, and so with hands, we might have is this sort of region, this space around this point, and this is the hands don't make me want to throw up zone. Right, they have this image in your database and in your data set, and there's sort of an area in the theoretical zone of all images where the hands look okay. You know, there's like some zone of JPEGs, potential JPEGs that are close to this one, where maybe he's not doing a peace sign, maybe he's got his hands balled, maybe he's doing this, you know, maybe he's, you know, hidden his hands behind his head or whatever. There's some region of images here, some potential cloud of outputs for this model where it doesn't look that bad. Doesn't look that bad. Right? Hands don't want to make me throw up zone. Only problem is that's gotta be kind of limited. It's gotta be kind of tied into your image. That is a strong sort of condition on your model relative to its input data. It can't get too far away or else the hands start getting weird, right? And far away is kind of wrong. Trying to more easily understood with it. And notably, the model that I scribble out here ain't gonna cut it, right? For this picture, for this set of inputs, our model is too far off. The hands are gonna look fucking gross, right? Like we're not doing it here. And so if you want good hands, and it's gonna be different for everyone, another problem with it. Sort of depends on how we've built our space of JPEGs, but each of these is gonna have a little, you know, thing around, a little zone. All the images where there are hands, that's pretty easy. Actually, pretty easy to make image. I say easy, not easy, but it's a lot less complex of a regression to make a system that's recognized whether there are hands in it. This one has hands, but all of these data points in our data set that have hands in them, they have these, you know, bands, like not freak show hand bands around them. Well, if you want the model to be good, to not have horrible looking hands, then, you know, gotta hit those targets. And now we're not hitting everything. We're not exactly connecting them. And when you try to force it to be better at this one thing, it gets worse at other stuff. Because of the overfitting, underfitting problem. The impact of like trying to adjust it in one way, adjust it in another way, is not exactly known, which is again something we've seen with GPT-4 and all of these language learning models. In those sense, it's like they'll train it to do these sort of challenges that people come up with the last model, but then there'll be some other stuff that it was actually doing okay before that it now is doing worse on. It's kind of a big thing. And this is it. This is a fundamental thing. Overfitting, underfitting. Which is not limited to these kind of neural networks. Like, overfitting, underfitting is a general obstruction in theory of regression, right? Trying to get a model which can accurately predict and project stuff, while also fitting the data that it has, that is overfitting, underfitting. That's a problem in regression in general, but it's also a problem here. Right? And so I'm going to come back to these misconceptions. So in that whole discussion, I kind of addressed the idea that it can't do hands now, but soon it will. There was that famous here was this AI generated image of Trump running from the police. Right? Celebrate the Trump indictments. Whole other topic for another time. But this is an illustration. The latest models, they've gotten a little better at hands. I mean, these are extremely long fingers. But they started doing stuff like this, putting hands in pockets. Let's catch another one here. Hands in pockets, hands in sort of neutral positions. This guy's missing a thumb, but the thumb doesn't matter. If you put the hand in the right position, maybe you can't see the thumb. Don't worry about the thumb. This dude in the hoodie back here, he's got his hands in his pockets. This is not so good. I don't know what's going on with these two people. They sort of have melded into one person. This is just like the top of a head, and then I don't know what that is. You know. The producers of these products are giving more strategy. But what's going on? This hand is not good. But they're coming up with strategies, and this is sort of how you do it from a product development standpoint. Is sure, there's no way for us to make this thing do hands right? Because they're sort of on that final fundamental level. There are kinds of things, of which rendering hands is one, that the overfitting, underfitting problem fundamentally means, you know, this is never going to do it that way. Because of the overfitting, underfitting issue, it's not going to happen. You're not going to get it to, like, really make good hands in every picture. It's not happening. You could probably get it to learn how to make, like, a good picture of hands only. But hands as a part of a larger image is just, it's difficult. Right? And so what you do is you come up with these ideas. You try to nudge it. You try to train it, weight your data sets in certain ways so that it gets better at being more consistent with hands, hiding hands in pockets, making sure when there are hands, it does exactly the same thing. You sort of hard coded it. Go in there, tell it what to stop. Don't do your own thing with hands. Listen to it. This is what you're gonna do. Right, and so from a product point, that's fine. But you're not actually, making the thing isn't actually improving and learning how to draw hands better. You're just telling it what to do when it has to draw hands, because if you don't tell it what to do, it's gonna look like shit. Right? Now there's another problem in here. There's a really big problem with actually training it to do hands, which is this second misconception. It isn't plagiarism. Right, so we have our model here that we trained to do hands. We did it overfitting, underfitting. Look right here. Right? So you say, man, our model really sucks at doing hands. Let's give it some parameters. Try and, you know, keep it within the good hand zone for everything. But here, you've trained your model. Here you have a problem where one of your images, right? One of your images, it had a bunch of tags in it, right? Well, your model is now hitting that data point exactly. Now, this is unlikely when you're doing a good neural network model. But if you have a bunch of data points, these do, and you have like really dense data sets, which do, you know, dense meaning there's a bunch of them. Kind of a loop. But if you have a really dense data set, like if you have, you know, about like 500 billion images or whatever it is in the usual data set that people use to train these. Got a bunch of data in there, it becomes more and more likely that the model that you make hitting one of your data points exactly. And now this is model-based plagiarism. Because like I said, you've got, you know, or weak database property. Right? A real database, like a strong database, has all threads. Works in a particular way. But these kind of models are weak databases because you take your data set, you take all your data points, and you sort of store them in the model. And if your model is actually, you know, connecting the dots and hitting every point, you can actually get every data point that you put in back out. You can get all the JPEGs out by typing in their prompts. Kind of a database. Not quite how a database works. It's a weak database. You can't do everything that you want a database to do, but it's kind of working. Only problem is, you know, if it's something like publicly available research data on diabetes, then that's, who cares, right? You put the data in, you get the data out, great, it's good. But if you're generating images and the output of the image says the model made this, but the model is just spitting out something someone else did, that's plagiarism. If you take something someone else did, you know, you right-click, save an image, you put it in the database, pull it out of the database, and you say, well, I put it in the database and then I took it out of the database. I made this, you know? That's plagiarism, right? And, you know, most people aren't saying I made this with the AI. They're saying, well, the AI generated it. But saying the AI generated this image when it didn't generate the image, it just pulled it out of the database, you know, that's plagiarism. So, like, most of the time, you're not doing plagiarism. Because if you're really doing the underfitting, overfitting properly, then you're not gonna be hitting the targets most of the time. But if you, the more data you have, and the better you want it to do hands, the better you want this model to be at making hands, the more and more you are pushing it towards overfitting, and the closer and closer you are getting to model-based plagiarism occurring more and more often. And then if you release this thing and you have, you know, 1 million use, 2 million use, whatever, open source, anybody can use it, democratize art, blah blah blah. You have that going on all around the world, and you have a bunch of data points, and you've pushed it so that hands don't look like it. You could be pushing out a product which commits model-based plagiarism on like the scale of like, I don't know, trillions of dollars worth of copyright infringement. Like absolutely absolutely deranged levels of stuff, right? Unbelievable amounts of plagiarism going on. Like, you know, plagiarism on a scale, you're not just gonna fail the class, you're not just gonna get kicked out of the university, you're going to jail. Like, it's hard to commit plagiarism that is that bad, but you know, here we go. Right? With this kind of stuff, could be. This is actually a lawsuit, actually in a lawsuit that has been brought up now in Japan, saying that, you know, sure, there are cases where it's not plagiarism, but there's no guarantee that it isn't plagiarism. And the better the models are, right, the closer they get to the images, the better they can do hands, the more likely we have lots of plagiarism. And there's no guarantee that you can't be plagiarism, because guaranteeing that it's not plagiarism means that the model is just way worse. If the model is good, it's kind of likely that there is a lot of plagiarism going on, and you can't really put a limit on that likelihood, especially because we don't really have a good, precise control over how all of these regressions work. I didn't talk about the my only. Jesus Christ. True. Right? The closer this thing is doing hands, the better it is, the more likely we have model-based plagiarism going on. You have just a case of someone, and this has already happened, like many times. Artists on Twitter have posted like, people are using my art in dataset, and then people are typing my name in as prompts, because that's how it's tagged on like website. And thing is just like spitting out my exact art, but like flipped. And the thing about model-based plagiarism is like, plagiarism isn't like exact. Like, you don't have, like, copying word for word is plagiarism, but like paraphrasing slightly with no attribution is also plagiarism. Like, if I read a book and then I sort of like outline the book that I just read and then type up my own version of that exact book outlined exactly as it was, that's still plagiarism. So like, it can be even a little off and still be plagiarism. Not, you know, this isn't like, it doesn't have to exactly hit the target, which happens too anyway, but like, even if it changes the hair color or the style of the outfit a little bit, that's still plagiarism if it's basically the same composition and image overall. So model-based plagiarism is definitely real. It can be plagiarism, and the better the model is, the more likely that you're getting plagiarism out as people use it. Big issue, right? number 3 is kind of a not really a thing to do with the technical side of things. Just to come back to it one last time. You can see here, you know, this sort of these sort of models that we have here, these sort of fittings of our data point, right, that we have here. Obviously, if we added a bunch more data points, like if we added a bunch more images, I think these data sets have like trillion, not kidding, like a trillion images. Right, the more data points you add to your sort of cloud of information, the more you're able to work with, the sort of better sense you have of how a good bit looks or doesn't, right? The more data, the better when you're trying to build models. Well, currently available models use like actually billions of images. I think it's over a trillion images. And they have to be processed in a certain way. I really didn't talk about the processing of the images at all, which to me is really actually the interesting, cool stuff that has happened. These are the really big theoretical advances. The idea of stable diffusion is a way to process JPEGs through this process called stable diffusion and turn them into what looks like noise, but the process that you're turning them into this kind of noise is basically normalizing the space of like what we would call recognizable images, and you're sort of cutting out all of potential JPEGs that are just like random pixels that don't look like shit. They don't look like anything. They're just garbage, right? You're getting rid of all those, and you're sort of narrowing down the space in a particular way. It's a very cool idea. It's very interesting. It's based on like image recognition processes that happen in cognitive science. It's very cool stuff. Cool research. I'm a math dude. All of the research behind this, all the ideas behind this, all the underlying like principles that are going on here are very cool. I like them, and I even like the stuff conceptually, like the idea of doing this and the power that neural networks have to do this extremely high dimensional context that this is. Like, I drew you a 2-dimensional picture. You know, the space of JPEGs, of all possible JPEGs, is certainly not a 2-dimensional space. It's like every pixel is its dimensions. Like the higher resolution images you want to make, the higher the dimensionality of the space that you're working with. Very complicated. It is not, this straight line is not what the space of all JPEGs looks like. It's a lot higher dimensional, and that the same thing goes for prompts. Process as like a whole other thing that also relates. There's a lot of cool ideas coming from linguistics, coming from cognitive science about like recognizing images and processing. All these cool ideas in terms of like actually making this correspondence in such a way that you could do a model, and then underneath that is like the high dimensional generalized autonomous regression networks that build these models and actually even approach doing the over-underfitting problem away. But even so, all the stuff I've told you here is at the heart. These are like core issues resolve. And one of the core issues is that if you want this to work, you kind of need a shitload of data, right? Again, I drew these as lines, so it kind of looked like, oh, you don't need that much data. But again, like, the JPEG space itself is going to be like 2,000 dimensions or something. 10,000. I have no idea. But regardless, you need a ton of pictures to train this thing. And so we're talking about this data is billions of images. All of those images have been labeled. How are the images labeled? Who labeled them? Where did that come from? Right? You know, there's just some freely extracted labor there, a little bit of slavery. Just you know, just like billions of images worth of uncompensated labor there. just a taste of slavery. The dash. Also, the images. Not to put too fine a point on it, but God bless, like, obviously there's a thing with like Henken's illustrations. The guy just used them. He just took them and used them. You can't do that, okay? And people are like, oh, but you uploaded the data onto the internet, so now anybody can use it. That's not how this works. And if you want to know why it doesn't work that way, just try to go on Amazon.com. Make yourself a little auto hotkey script that screenshots the prices of products on Amazon.com and just like goes through the pages, one page at a time. Just try to see what happens. Take that data, do a little image processing, screenshots, and start publishing a database of publicly available data about Amazon prices. Try and do it. See what happens to you. You will get your ass clapped with a lawsuit so fast. You will get destroyed. Amazon will obliterate you. This is literally corporate espionage. You cannot web scrape. You cannot screenshot. You are not allowed to. You will get eviscerated legally. This is well-established stuff. Companies will destroy you, and Shutterstock is doing this now. Same as Getty Images, right? Getty Images is coming for this stuff too. There was one model that someone trained on Shutterstock images, and all of the things it generated had the Shutterstock watermark on it, which is just like, come on. It's too funny. So, you know, just because data is out there on the internet does not mean you can use it. And to any aspiring data scientists, independent people who are trying to do projects or something to like build a portfolio or just for fun or whatever, do not touch private data sets. I am being very serious here. You will ruin your life. They will come for you. They will end you, bro. Like, don't do it. Don't touch it. If you're like an elite hacker off the grid, you don't give a fuck. You're just gonna do it. I don't care. Corpos can't stop me. You know what? Bless. You know, take your life into your own hands. Do what you're gonna do. I hope you never get caught. But if you're just a normal person doing shit for fun, if you're just a researcher out there trying to mess around with image models, do not touch these data sets. They are toxic. They are legal minefields. You can't get a billion images off the internet without stepping across way, way, way too many copyright lines. It's not happening. That doesn't exist. Like, especially if you wanted to generate like illustrations. Yeah. No way. Because when someone illustrates something, it's theirs. That's how copyright works. That's literally the basis of all property law. Is like, if I make the thing, it's my thing. That's how property works baseline. That's the core of all property law. And then, you know, there's like contracts and exchanges and rights, control, and the systems and all this other stuff. But at the core, can't do that. So just because something is out there on the internet doesn't mean you can do whatever you want with it. You can't. You're not allowed to. Again, for all data science folks, don't touch private databases. Do not. Unless you work for the company, you can't use their database. Right? Some, you know, various websites, various companies. IMDb has a public database that I'm doing a project with right now. It's kind of a lame project, but you know, there are public databases out there. My anime list basically just lets you scrape their whole website. They just give you an API. They're like, we don't give a shit, dude. The data is not the point of this thing. Right, the profit if it's all off ads and like other stuff like that. Right, there are publicly available datasets. There's a whole website with publicly available datasets. Kaggle, which sounds like a sex thing, but is not. Kaggle just has a bunch of datasets. This guy put up an Amazon product sales dataset. Christ. Anyway, I'm not touching that one, but you know, I'm sure there's some side of the Amazon information that is you are publicly allowed to work with for funsies. But it's serious stuff. Data theft is a real thing, and you can't just do it. And these models are doing it. They are definitely doing it. They have to do it. Right? You need like so many data points. If you don't have that many data points, you can't make the thing because it's too high dimensional stuff. I didn't get into, but that is just how it is. These things can't exist without, you know, at this point, massive data theft, which is just like, it's not happening. So, long story short, if you asked me, what's gonna happen to AI? Where is it going? Where is all of this going? If you asked me, it's gonna get sued into oblivion. Regulated because of and then what is it? Like, if you're not allowed to use it on like making images of public figures, right? People with lots of pictures of them available. Then you can't use it to make images of anybody. And if it can't use like, if it can't commit, you know, literally trillions of dollars worth of damages of data theft, then, well, it can't really have them. And then even if it stays the way it is, the hands are never gonna look good. Like, they're gonna look like shit all the time. They're always gonna look weird. You know, the overfitting, underfitting problem means you're always gonna be able to tell that it's like AI a certain kind of way. Like, things are always gonna look a little off. Even if they hide the hands, they teach it to hide the hands. You know, again, the arm length, the proportions, all of these little details, the specific things that make it not look kind of freaky. Don't put it in that eerie valley. It's not gonna get those. It can't get those. It doesn't work if it gets them. And then even if it does get those, it starts committing plagiarism. So, like, these things aren't just like good things. They're not just good things that work in a good way. They're not just like people. I mean, they're this. This is what's going on. There's no consciousness. There's no like learning. There's no thinking going on. It is a model. It is a regression. It is a high-dimensional, autonomous regression. It's doing shit that you learned in high school, powered up to like 10 trillion. But there are fundamental issues with it, and these are them. That was a hella long rant. That was a 2-hour straight rant. I am exhausted for just going off on that. Woo-wee. I was planning on doing an hour rant and then chilling a little bit afterwards, but I'm not going to chill at all. No chill this time. All rants, all bants, all everything. Fuck test reels. Fuck eugenicists. They're all freaks. Yeah. Extremely long one today. One of the longer episodes at a full 2 hours. All content, no discussion of my life. Discussion of my life. I have an hour to get ready for work and I gotta go do that. But I wanted to get this episode in because no one knows what the fuck is going on. Like, no one's talking about AI like this. They all think it's like real people because they're all stupid, and all the guys making it are lying about it, saying it's like real people thought because they want, you know, money from eugenicists. It's all very gross. It's all very stupid. It's all very dumb. It's not like that. It's like this. It's not very exciting. It's not very interesting. It's always gonna suck. It's probably not gonna get much better. We're already feeling the plateau. GPT-3 and GPT-4 aren't that different. Tech plateaus are real. Da 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 da. Blah 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 blah. I said it all here. Thank you, Core, for stopping by. Love to see you in the chat. I'm trying different times for the stream, seeing if more or less can show up. I want to be more morning, but I just couldn't sleep at all last night. Late stream, real streamer shit. Almost done with this data science camp, so I'm gonna start a new series where I actually do some data science using my preferred data set science technique, what I think is the real long-term potential advancement data science, topological data analysis. Of course, I think that topologist thinks topology is, but it has a lot of potential and stuff. I will start a series where I do some of that and we try some stuff and we mess around with things. Maybe do stuff like that. Coming down the pipeline, more different content, more content like this, more content about different stuff, not just Chainsaw Man, not just anime and manga, although I still will always be talking about that because it's near and dear to my heart. But I'm gonna be branching out, be pushing out into the content space, talking about more different things. Keep doing the AniTube interviews, so I have a nice little idea for some more content related to that coming soon. I actually pressed record on this one, so we'll see if the we're having frame drops, dude. I swear the YouTube servers are not doing okay. So there's that. But I do have to go get ready for work. I'm gonna go do that. I'm gonna have a lunch, breakfast, whatever it's called. Get ready for work. Probably gonna stop by the donut shop that I haven't stopped by for in a few days. Do work, come back, work on the project, chill, play Chained Echoes before I leave. Shout out to Chained Echoes. I've been playing that. A one-man game available on Steam. A little pricey, but man, I mean, I've already played $1 per hour, I think. There it. $15 hours on my $23 purchase. I think I'll get another 8 out of it quite easily. I'm not even through the second zone of this classic style JRPG. Turn-based combat, but it actually has a really interesting combat system, and if you turn the difficulty settings all the way up, it's actually super hard, but you heal after every fight, and everyone gets revived after every fight, so like, you know, you can go full blast on every single fight, but every single fight is also like really hard. Awesome. It's awesome, it's challenging, it's interesting. It pushes the limits of turn-based combat a lot and makes it more, just harder. You have to think a lot more than you normally do, and it turns out when turn-based combat is actually challenging, it's actually interesting. Balance was in fact the issue. Balance is always the issue. Every game can be interesting and engaging. The balance is good. I swear. Anyway, I'm gonna run. Thanks for stopping by. God bless everyone who watches the VOD. I wonder how controversial this one will be. I'm sure I'll have a bunch, if there gets any traction, I'm sure I'll have a bunch of like Stable Diffusion people talking about it. You didn't explain how Stable Diffusion. Yeah. Shut the fuck up. Don't comment on my videos. Never comment on my videos. I will never read YouTube comments. Please do something more valuable with your time. Thank you for watching. Thanks for stopping by. See you next time. I'm gonna try and actually do it Sunday morning. Try and not be too tired to do it. And this Sunday I had a podcast record, so I was like, I was too tired. I barely have time for the podcast. Afterwards, I was like, fuck you. I just chilled. Anyway, enough of that. Goodbye. Gotta go. Peace and love.